Hello and welcome to the Red Devil Review. I'm Will and this here is Jamie.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about United's 2-1 win at Old Trafford against West Ham United.
Yes, we did. We grinded out.
Yes, we did. Goals from Rooney, Van Persie and Saka for West Ham. And of course the notorious Rooney seeing red, which I'm sure we will get onto later. First off, we're going to start with player ratings.
I haven't written mine down, William, but I'm going to look at yours and decide whether or not these are correct ratings.
Okay. So, Jamie, why don't you go first? Or do you want me to...
Do you want to go first?
Okay.
So, goalkeeper De Gea, what do we give him?
I gave him a 5.
I gave him a 5 as well.
That's convenient. And probably because he was probably, I would say, at fault for West Ham's goal, and but he was still solidly okay throughout and he did pull off a couple of good saves.
Okay. The back four, you've given Raphael 7. I probably would have given him a 7. Rojo 5. Yep. McNair a 7. Yep. And Shaw a 6. Yeah, I don't agree. I don't disagree with any of those.
No. I think the reason being
this is a fine set of.
Thank you, because Shaw, although he played quite well and deserved that. I thought we deserved average. Raphael put in a great cross from a marauding run forward, which last week I did criticise, probably because he didn't defend. Rojo was average, if not below average, because again his defending was somewhat suspect, and McNair proved that he's probably one of our best defenders along with Blackett, which is depressing.
I think it's one of those things about the adrenaline of a debut. Like a debut tends to go pretty well. If you're like an average player, you're going to put something more on for your debut. You're going to be adrenaline rushing through you, like the ridiculous back heel header that he did.
Yeah.
Back
well, saying header. That, remember Woodgate's debut for Real Madrid.
Yeah, but he wasn't making his debut in professional football.
True, that's true.
And it's the same sort of situation. So I'll give McNair a 7 because I mean I'd be hesitant to even give him an 8 because the fact that it's his debut. Because that would have been a 7 by just an average defender who's regularly in the team, because it's his debut. It's almost like you want to give him even more credit.
Yep.
You've given Blind a 5. I would have given him a 5 as well. I think everyone was going on about how cracking he was on the Full-Time Devils post-match YouTube videos, but he literally set Saka up for a really easy chance, if I recall correctly. Oh no, it was Enner Valencia. I do apologise. That isn't racism. He hits it back over nobody, over our entire back four to a faster striker who's on the side, and he has a free shot.
Yes.
De Gea is in no man's land and he fucks it up. But under any other circumstance, had he kept it on target, Daley Blind would have literally been given an assist, because it was the most ridiculous pass. And it was completely ignored because Valencia didn't score, and everybody else was talking about how Blind was really good. I disagree with that. I thought he was pretty suspect in the second half. Obviously, we were down to 10 men, but I don't think he's the quality. A lot of these ratings I would have made lower because the first half was so good, and then the second half wasn't.
Yeah.
Partly down to the circumstances of the red card we'll get onto, but I also feel like the performance dropped. If this was Football Manager, I would have said good first half, poor second half.
That's a very good.
As the summary, and Blind was one of the many people who I thought still disappointed, still unsure about him, still unsure about Rojo, but hopefully they'll prove themselves worthy in time.
Indeed.
You've gone Di Maria 6.
Yes, although saying that, I think it might be 6 or 7 because he did play quite. He was all right, and he did have a couple of chances, but then I don't think they were on target. So maybe 6 is fair on reflection.
Yeah, he didn't live up to his
quality,
his top standard. He's set such a high standard of getting essentially, I would say, 8 since he's arrived. So this is probably a 6 from him, because just of how good he is, and you know that he's capable of more. You've given Herrera an 8. I have no idea why you've done that.
Really? I think he was. I'd say he was by far our best midfielder, and he did.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
And his passing was pretty good, and also he was. It was a fantastic tackle in the build up to Van Persie's goal.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that we now have a player who's capable of tackling, but not at the last second, which is always good.
Yeah, I would hesitate to give someone an 8, because an 8 for me is scoring like 2 goals or setting up 2 goals or being just generally all over the
Yeah, but you wouldn't expect Herrera.
I would say Herrera's first half was excellent. He was the best player on the pitch. In the second half, not necessarily fault of his own, but that doesn't matter. His performance dipped. Obviously, he had to come deeper because we were down to 10 men, but we couldn't get out of our area for the last 15 minutes, and part of that was attempting to push forward.
But again, we have 10 men, so what do you expect?
The analogy given is sometimes that you've cut your leg off or something, but you haven't. You only cut off a small amount. Like 10, going down to 10 men isn't the be all and end all. Plenty of teams win with 10 men. I don't think we needed to be as deep as we needed to be, but we ground it out. It was very Moses Okonga on Twitter said it was like watching an England World Cup group stage game. And I think that summed it up perfectly, because it was definitely like that. I was nervous. I was definitely expecting West Ham to score, and obviously they did, but we'll get into that. So yeah, I would have probably given him a 7.
Okay.
But yeah, never mind. Rooney, you've given a 6.
Yes.
Interesting one, isn't it? Because you can't really... I would have said, if he'd stayed on the pitch the whole 90 minutes, it could have been a 7 or 8, but you sort of kill your own...
It's kind of strange, because I've seen other ratings that said, oh, he only got a 3 because he got sent off because he lashed out. And
that's bullshit.
That is absolute nonsense, because he was arguably probably the best player on the pitch for us for a bit until he got sent off.
He scored the opening goal.
He scored the opening goal. Lovely finish. And we'll get onto the red card in due course, but I don't. It's too harsh to call him like a 3 or a 4 just because he got sent off.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he got sent off and it didn't lead to us losing the game. Now we gave Rojo a 3 at Leicester because he was at fault for like 3 goals and was one of the principal reasons why we lost. So a 3 should be a principal reason why a team loses.
Yeah.
And we didn't lose. And Rooney's performance on the day wasn't awful. Like, if Rojo got sent off against Leicester, I would have been like, great. Rather you going than Blackett sort of thing. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Whereas with Rooney getting sent off, it was a shame, but we got through it.
Yeah.
So, Falco, you've put 6/7. Yeah, I would have gone 6/7 as well. Probably a 6, because I like to be cruel.
I mean, I think it's that he set up Van Persie's goal, and he did look dangerous, even though the chances didn't necessarily fall to him the way he would have wanted.
And we still haven't seen the best of Falcao, which is fine, because he seems to not be fit, because he was taken off instead of Van Persie. A lot of people in the stadium, noticeably, seemed to think he would be the one that came off, but Falcao, for all we know, probably his fitness isn't top-notch yet. I mean, he's only just come back from a massive injury, so it's not too bad. And Van Persie, despite scoring a goal, you've given him a 6. I would have said given him a 6 as well. I don't think he really contributed.
No, he didn't really do much other than finish the chance. Which
was
fair enough.
Fine.
It was a good finish, but he didn't really. He wasn't the complete forward that he used to be.
No, and hopefully we'll get back to doing that. Okay, so let's move on to incidents. Oh, sorry, William, you're in charge. I'm sorry about that.
Yes.
You're in charge today.
Okay.
You're in charge of your papers.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
All your notes, all 2 of them, rubbing together.
So let's move on to... my apologies.
That was great. Now when he was in charge, we'll just cough like vigorously into the...
So let's move on to incidents. Rooney's red card. Very hotly debated. Jamie, your view?
It's an interesting one, because at the time... William, come on.
Sorry.
You're embarrassing yourself. The thing with Rooney's red card, for me, was at the time, I was like, well, this is a yellow. It's one of those old Makalele ones, right?
Yeah.
He's burst away, it's a yellow card, everyone's going to not give a shit, whatever.
Yeah.
Downing's not hurt.
Yeah, he literally just...
Because that's the thing, people are going, well, apologise to Downing. Downing wasn't hurt at all, he just got up and kept going. And everyone seemed to be like, okay, fine, yellow card, whatever. West Ham weren't calling for a red.
No.
And the red comes out of nowhere, and the commentators were as surprised as I was. So I was like, oh, great, referee trying to make a name for himself. You know, bad to worse. Oh, Wayne Rooney controversial. Well, Rooney has this reputation for getting red cards, despite not having a red card in the league since 2009, which is better than most sort of players that do what he does, which is sort of like the tough tackling, rough and ready, attacking midfield sort of role. Loads of people have got more yellow cards and red cards than him since then. It's just, I do apologise, I think it's his first straight red card since 2009.
Oh, his first red card. I have no idea.
Because he got one against Fulham, it was 2 yellows, but... No, that was a red card, wasn't it?
Anyway,
his record is actually pretty decent, especially compared to other people. We think that Wilfred Bonny's record or somebody. Wilfred Bonny got sent off the last night. I was like, well, that's such a Wilfred Bonny thing to do, to run screaming into people with dangerous challenges, which he did do, and has done before and not got punished. And then Rooney does this, which at the time looked pretty innocuous, and he got a red card. However, when you actually look back at it, he does give him a good little kick, doesn't he? He does high up the body as well.
He does give him a good kick. However, that is because, I would say, of a bit earlier in the move where... Was it Sacco who punched... No. Who punched the ball down?
No one punched the ball. Okay, I've seen your notes. You've put handball definitely.
It is definitely a handball.
It isn't a handball. Shaw lobs it into the area, and the West Ham player sort of has his arm at his side in what you might call a natural position because he's turning away from the ball, and it hits his hand. And then rather than going into the area, it breaks for Downing quite fortuitously.
Well, then just blow it up as ball to hand and have a drop ball then.
Well, that would be the rule, so...
Why not?
You just play on. If it's in a natural position, you just play on.
But it wasn't in a natural position, it was raised.
Anyway, so, that obviously this has nothing to do with the fact that Rooney kicked somebody at all, in my opinion.
I wouldn't say he kicked him.
It produced the incident with which he then decided to kick him, because if Downing not had possession of the ball in the beginning, what at the time Rooney must have assumed was a break, because we had 4-on-2 and definitely wasn't going to be a goal.
True. It was.
He must have thought that we'd been absolutely screwed over by that decision. I think he was still annoyed because we were still claiming for the handball. He was claiming for the handball when he got it. Yeah, that's another thing that made it feel like a jarring injustice initially when watching on television and not in the stadium, because people in the stadium, I think, didn't see the deflection as badly or whatever. So it sort of deflects. It could have been. I would have seen that given as a handball, right? And then you're thinking Rooney's going to get a yellow card, and then he's going to go, "There was a handball earlier," and he's going to go, all right, calm down. But instead, because he produces a red,
that kind of kills.
It creates the illusion. It creates the illusion of injustice, which I believe it is an illusion of injustice, because I think he kicks him quite out of the body, and he was like, "Well, I'm trying to tactically take him out." Well, it's like, well, great. Well, then trip him then. Don't full on kick him. And also, that's pointless. If he'd waited, I believe it was Daniel Taylor. There we go. Daniel Taylor said something along the lines of 3 years ago, Rooney would have just outrun Downing and got the ball. But now he's having to think tactically and kick him because he's too slow. So I think that's a little harsh, but I see the point. The point has been made. The fact that Rooney thought he had to kick him.
Yes, I've seen them given before, but I definitely don't think the intent was there.
Well, the intent was there to kick him, so that's definitely
not
true.
No, it wasn't. It was to stop him.
That is the intent to kick him.
No, it's not the intent to kick him. It's the intent to trip him.
That is an intent to kick him, William.
No, but it's the intent to trip, which is a yellow.
No, but he didn't intend to trip him. He intended to stop him, and he did so by kicking him.
Yes, but he didn't...
Not having intent...
The malice wasn't there.
No, that's a different issue, because not having the intent to kick somebody would be like when you have your foot planted in the ground and someone dives over you and smacks you and falls over, right?
Okay.
And you couldn't have got out of the way in time, but then it's given as a free kick, so you'd go, well, that wasn't really a free kick, he's sort of looking for it, but technically it's supposed to. So that's no intent, right?
But the separate
issue... He definitely intended to do it, because Downing's running and he kicks him.
Okay, fine, but the malice there wasn't there. So...
Well, it wasn't malicious. He wasn't trying to harm Stuart Downing, but he could have guaranteed he wouldn't harm Stuart Downing. But instead of kicking him right in the knee, he could have just tripped him.
Admittedly, it was high. I'm not going to deny that, but I'm
still
not convinced that it was enough to get a straight red.
I could see him getting a yellow and people saying he's lucky, because I think if he'd got a yellow, people would have debated it and gone, "Oh, he could have got a red." But a yellow seems alright. See, that's what I thought. It's one of those ones where he gets a red card, and I'm like,
too much for a yellow, not enough for a red.
That's what I think. It's one of those borderline ones that he made a decision. The referee made a decision, and I believe that either one would have been the correct decision. A yellow card would have been a correct decision in the sense that it's not he's committing what's a professional fault, as Van Gaal calls it. Although I was under the impression that a professional foul is always a red card. So saying that all he's doing is committing a professional foul doesn't really help your case, because I believe a professional foul is a red card in the rule book. So saying he committed a professional foul isn't helping. But yeah, you can see what Rooney's intention was to do. His execution was piss poor, and that's why he's been punished. He's been punished for doing something recklessly that shouldn't have been reckless. Which is why Makaleli's such a baller, because he could just do this whenever he wanted.
Well, I'm not convinced.
Okay, fair enough. The last thing you said there is the strength of the tackle.
Yes.
So presumably you're not really overly impressed with the idea that he hurt him or anything.
He did well, exactly. I mean, it would have looked worse, as you said earlier. It would have looked worse if the guy was writhing around on the floor in pain, like, my leg, I can't feel my foot. But the guy literally just stood up.
It wasn't Neymar, it was Stuart Downing. He just got back up.
Exactly. Yeah, he just stood up back up and went, "Oh, what's going on?"
That was uncalled for.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, even the West Ham players were surprised it was a red.
I mean, good, don't we? It was a pleasant surprise for them, I imagine.
Oh yeah, they probably loved it. Like, oh, that's handy. But if they're not even appealing for it.
Yeah. Again, I think it's too much for a yellow, not quite for a red. In the sense that if you got a yellow, people have gone, "Oh, silly Rooney getting himself booked there." But I suppose all tactically were, and then the red card, you're like, "Oh, what is it? Wait a minute, let's look at this. Oh, he kicks him. Oh, yeah, definitely red." So I think either way, the ref's right. The ref's a very luxurious position here, because either way is correct, I think.
Okay.
So let's move on to the next incident. What have we got for
the last minute goal by Kevin Nolan?
Yeah, I thought they were really unlucky here, because I briefly, although William off podcast has...
No, let's pretend that we haven't done that.
Okay, let's pretend that he hasn't already convinced me of something. So I'm going to just argue for something I don't believe in anymore.
Yeah, why not?
So I said to William...
Because then it makes me look good.
Yeah. So I said to William, Kevin Nolan, right? He's offside by his head, but the ball comes in low and he scores with his feet that were onside. Now the rule is if you're any part of your body you could score with is offside, then you're offside, right? But I initially said that the rule ought to be changed so that anything that you did score with sort of becomes. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, had the ball been floated in and he headed it in, he would have been offside. But if the ball coming in is low and he slaps him with his feet, he's onside because he hasn't gained advantage from being offside.
Yes.
In that sense.
However,
because the offside rule is all about gaining, it's trying to gain an unfair advantage. I don't believe that Kevin Nolan sticking his head out to see if the cross is coming and then scoring with his feet should be considered taking advantage of something. Not that I'm saying that we should try and change the rules so that Man United get penalised by a late-minute Kevin Nolan goals. I mean,
true. However, if the problem is that Kevin Nolan, of course, doesn't know where the ball's going to come. I mean, obviously they might have done a training ground thing where it's like, oh, in the air, son. But if it's
in the air, son,
my
son,
exactly. But if it's something like that, the incident that was here, Nolan couldn't have known where the ball was going to be to his head or to his feet. So we have to kind of just assume that whatever part of his body is offside could potentially score that goal.
Yeah, and there's also the added factor that the linesman's job is hard enough as it is for them to remember this bloody really complicated rule. Even if it makes the game slightly more fair, the number of incidents where somebody, as William said, the number of incidents where somebody's feet are in front of their head and then they score a header are going to be remote, if any ever.
If any ever, because I don't think that's physically possible.
And also somebody looking, you could say that someone who's like leaning forward loads. Who then you get into all kinds of potentially grey areas in the sense someone could be leaning forward by like half a yard, see a ball,
then just stick his leg out,
score cumbersomely with his leg, and it hits his head on the way in, and it becomes an offside or something.
Yeah,
which would be crazy.
Be awesome.
So
also imagine the thought process of the linesman, like, oh, it's a cross, but he was offside. Actually, no, because his head was on. But
I suppose the linesman have to retrospectively allow goals. So for that linesman's goal, the linesman's nervous and he's like, right, he's offside. I'll stick my flag up, and then suddenly he realises the ball's coming in low. Kevin Nolan scores, and then the flag comes back down again because he has to go all retrospectively. Yeah, so I realised that was a stupid rule, but I thought it would be slightly fairer, but it's an unworkable and unpractical rule, and for that reason, I'm sorry, William, that I brought it up at the time.
It's all right. I forgive you.
Fantastic. Yeah, you're in charge, William. So
I am in charge.
Definitely.
Last thing to talk about, really, because of course it wasn't particularly eventful other than those two incidents, was the West Ham goal itself. Now there was an interesting.
Well, let's just briefly talk about the Man United goals because they were quite tasty.
Okay.
As well.
Lovely hold-up play. The first goal, this is Rooney's goal, Van Persie holding up the ball very nicely, and then Raphael does a blistering run forward, takes the ball forward, lovely peach of a cross in, and Rooney just directing the ball into the far corner.
Yeah, I thought it was quite a nice goal. The commentators seem to like that a lot. I think they were retrospectively, it was like pre-recorded commentary, so they could like it way too much than they should and call it a captain's goal and the captain's courage, so that later on when he's sent off it's more of a shock to the system.
Yeah.
You know, the two sides of Wayne Rooney today. Well, not really.
It was a good goal, but
it was good. But
it made out to sound like
they're acting like it was the Man City goal or something.
Yeah.
From the commentary, which I thought was very odd because it's just a routine finish. Like it's nicely done, but it is a routine finish. Like if he'd fucked that up, then I would have been like, "Well, you crap."
Okay. The second goal came about 15-20 minutes later, which was the Robin Van Persie goal, which was a...
Winston Reid decides to basically give us a free goal, which is great.
Yeah, it was quite fun. Great tackle from Herrera in the build-up. Falca passing it into Van Persie. Van Persie, of course, had to take it past the defender first.
Van Persie's been offside a load in the first few games, and ironically, this is still a problem, because he's massively offside for this goal, and then Winston Reid decides on his own accord to drop off despite the line being quite high, keeping Van Persie offside. Van Persie does nothing to get back onside either. He just stands where he is, and Winston Reid provides him.
No, he kind of runs in like an arcing...
No, you're giving him way too much credit. He just stands there and Winston Reid does all the work for him.
Okay, fine.
And then Falcao slides a ball to him, and he would have been well offside if Winston Reid knew how to defend properly. And then
it was awful defending.
Yeah, and then Winston Reid doesn't get tight enough to him then, and then he has enough time to turn and score a good goal.
But it was a good finish.
No, it isn't a good finish, but I expect him. He's a natural finisher, so it's one of those things where if you're given a... It's that whole Woody Allen quote, if you're given a gift and you act like it's an achievement, then you're doing something wrong. It's like he's always been good at finishing, so acting like that was the great bit of that.
Okay.
Like, it would have been an achievement if he'd stayed on site so Falcao could have played it earlier.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay, that is your opinion, and I'm
going to ignore it.
I'm going to ignore it. Okay. And then the final goal game, as it turned out, was West Ham's goal.
This is a fucking stupid goal to concede.
This is bizarre, because of course, going into this game, everyone, be it manager, or spectator, or genuinely anyone who knows anything about football knows that Sam Allardyce loves a good goal at set pieces.
Well, Van Gaal knew that, apparently. He'd know all the shed plays. I knew all the shed plays. Well, you can know about it and then not fucking defend them. That's great.
Interesting discussion on goals on Sunday was Chris Kamara defending De Gea's goalkeeping. Now, his argument is that as the ball comes in, De Gea comes out and prevents the header, the original header, from going in, which then is unfortunate because it bounces off the crossbar and then lands to Saka.
His point is that all the West Ham players are in a little huddle, and Man United are man-marking them, so they have to join the huddle, which is an expert way of basically... Sam Allardyce has looked at the training board and gone, oh, Man United are probably going to do man-marking under Van Gaal. How do we fuck with man-marking? Let's all stand in a huddle.
Yeah.
And then rather than go, alright, we're going to switch to zonal because they're clearly going to burst out of this huddle, everyone went, oh, let's make a huddle with them, let's cuddle them.
Yeah.
Which was stupid. But there's also Morgan Amalfitano, who's the one who gets the first header. He's on the goalie.
Yes.
So Chris Kamara defends him in the sense that he looks around, everyone's man-marked, you can't expect Blind to get off the line, so David De Gea has followed Amalfitano into this crazy thing, trying to punch the ball away to stop Amalfitano from having essentially a free header. Because it was quite clear this whole set piece basically came off perfectly in that everyone's going to be preoccupied with this huddle, everyone's going to rush off in areas where the ball's not going to come to them, and Amalfitano is the actual target.
Yeah.
And they send the ball into the centre, Amalfitano peels off the keeper, whereas the keeper's expecting to pretend to be fouled, as all keepers pretend to be doing when there's a guy on them, and he suddenly bursts away from the keeper and it forces the keeper to come out. Chris Kamara is implying that because De Gea gets so close and he gets something on it, he's done his job. But I assume both of us agree...
That's not true.
No, because the whole point of the set piece was to get De Gea to come mindlessly out of his goal.
Yes. Also, De Gea's job isn't to stop, is to stop him scoring, because he's the goalkeeper, and is to come out and either punch or catch it. So if you don't do those things, but then you distract him enough so it only comes to a rebound goal, that's not good enough.
No, he shouldn't be past it. He should be, if he'd been on the, obviously you can't go back in time, but if he'd been on the line and Amalfitano's tame header had been towards the goal, there was a guy on the line and he would have been on the line to catch it, because it's going towards, he gets such a big hand on it.
Yeah.
In terms of deflecting the ball away from its initial target, you can't really see if it's going in or not, but it seemed to me like it would have been an error of judgment on Van Gaal's part, or Blind on the line, had this gone in.
Yeah.
And not De Gea's, because Blind should be like, oh crap, and then run in and stop Amalfitano, who's 6'2", would have got the header anyway.
Yeah.
So, I can see both sides, but I'd also say that De Gea, he can't be put in these situations, because he's been put in these situations even more, and in his first season, his criticism was, oh, it's set plays, De Gea is useless. And then he had a really good season last season. Whether or not he actually had a good season, we don't know, because everyone was so shit. And he's become one of the top Premier League goalies, in my opinion, over the last couple of years. And now he seems to be going backwards in the sense that his development seems to have... at set pieces, he's just as vulnerable as he was in his first season. And I thought we were over this.
I mean, yeah, I have nothing really to add other than the fact that De Gea's got to be told what his purpose is. Because obviously if Van Gaal's saying, okay, go up and try and block the header, okay, fine, you're just waving your arms in the air. But then most people would say, no, if the goalkeeper stays on his line or comes out when he knows he can punch it out, then that would be the thing to do. But it seems that De Gea didn't really know what he was doing when he just kind of mindlessly ran out to try and put people off, which then leaves the goal gaping and open.
I find it hard to take any Chris Kamara analysis seriously, obviously, because of his terrible managerial career.
Yes. Right.
Okay. So this is the end. This is the conclusion. We're having a short one this week because it was an easy game. In terms of analysis, luckily it wasn't a 4-all. We're going to be here next time when we are going to be reviewing the game against Everton. We've just heard news at the time of recording that Phil Jones may be fit for that game, which means that McNair may be dropped, or Blackett may not come back, so it's going to be quite interesting to see what he does with the back four. So we will talk about the Everton game and hopefully we'll have beaten them 5-0 at Old Trafford or Goodison Park, wherever games shall be played and had. And we look forward to hearing from you in the comments section. Do drop us a line, do subscribe, comment, all that sort of shit. Thank you very much, and goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Bye.